If you're anything like me, when you hear the word obedience, there's a little something inside you that gets uncomfortable. Obedience is the main reason I couldn't wait to grow up, so no one would tell me what to do. After all, what's really wrong with eating chocolate cake for breakfast, or forgetting to make your bed once in a while, or even a week? But you know what the surprising thing about being an adult is? I still follow some rules. There are some rules that I follow without even thinking about it. Like, I would never put this in the microwave. I don't spray Windex in my eyes. I would never reuse this bottle to store beverages. And I have never, ever, ever forgotten to remove this before driving. Why do I follow these rules? Well, they're just pretty smart, aren't they? The people who made this Windex know something about its chemical properties that I may not fully understand. And because they're selling me this product, they feel responsible for my safety and welfare. Okay, they just don't want me to sue them. But there are some other people in my life who have authority over me. I have a boss at work, and I abide by the laws that exist in the state where I live. I wear a seatbelt when I drive and a helmet when I ride my motorcycle. I do these things because I trust that the people who have authority have created rules and guidelines for my protection. This month, we're going to be talking to children about the importance of obedience. It's not that we want children to simply comply with all the rules, but we want children to understand the value of trusting those who have authority. That's why we say obedience means trusting those who lead you by doing what you're asked to do. Somewhere along the way, we have to make sure that children who grow up in our churches understand why it's important to obey, and how they obey their leaders reflects what they think about God. Let's talk about what the Bible has to say about obedience. Our memory verse for this month is Hebrews 13:17a. It says, "Trust in your leaders. Put yourselves under their authority. Do this because they keep a watch over you." Our goal as leaders is to somehow make sure that every child understands that God is involved in putting the people who are in authority over them, that God has a plan for authority and knows more than we know, and honestly cares about you and me. We want kids to know they can grow up trusting God because God knows more than they know, and God loves them unconditionally. In fact, if you've ever picked up a Bible and started reading from the beginning, you know that it doesn't take long to discover the value of obedience. In the beginning, God created this magnificent paradise for Adam and Eve to live in and enjoy. They had an unbroken relationship with God, who gave them one simple rule to obey: don't eat from the fruit of that tree. But ultimately, they didn't trust God. They decided to break the one rule, and when they did, it changed the course of history. They learned that obedience matters, even when you think you know better than the one who made the rule. As you keep reading in Genesis, you see how life kept spiraling farther away from God. Soon, everyone seemed to be focused on anything but God, except for one man, Noah. Now, you're probably familiar with this story, how God sent a flood and instructed Noah to build a giant boat. People must have thought he was crazy, but God honored Noah's obedience and saved him, his family, and lots of animals. In this story, we see how it's definitely worth trusting God and obeying, even if you're the only one. Then, in another significant moment, God asks someone to make a giant leap of faith and to be obedient. God promised Abraham and his descendants he would become a great nation. He tells Abraham to pack up his family and move. Abraham wasn't exactly sure how things would all play out, but he obeyed, trusting that God would keep his promise. When you look at Abraham's obedience, it's easy to see the value of obeying, even when you don't know how it will all work out. In week 4, we'll see how God keeps his promise to Abraham. God gave him a son, Isaac. Abraham must have been so excited to know that God was following through on his promise. But then God asked Abraham to do the unthinkable: sacrifice his only son. As a parent, I can't imagine what Abraham must have gone through when he heard this request, but he trusted God. So he made steps to follow through in obedience. He knew that God must have a bigger plan he's working out. Unfortunately, God spared Isaac's life by sending a ram to take his place. Just a hint of the plan God had to save each one of us through the sacrifice of his own son. He used Abraham's obedience as a way to demonstrate his love and grace toward his creation. So why is it important for you as a leader to teach children obedience? To teach children to trust those who lead them by doing what they're asked to do? Well, for at least two reasons. First, we want every child to understand what it means to live under the umbrella of authority and protection when it comes to their safety and their future. Second, most of these children are going to grow up and have their own families, become leaders in their own organizations, and their ability to learn how to follow will determine how well they lead. So remember, this month you're simply doing one thing. You're teaching children to obey, trusting those who lead them by doing what they're asked to do.